People, in case you're not familiar with this person, this is Jefferson Beauregard Sessions III. He is the junior senator from the state of Alabama. He is also the person that Donald Trump has placed in nomination for the position of Attorney General for the United States. The Attorney General position is the top law enforcement officer in the country, and is charged with defending the people, okay? Defending the people in cases of civil rights, environmental laws, etc. He's the top attorney for the country. There are a lot, with yours truly included, that believe that the confirmation of the nomination for Mr. Sessions is going to set African Americans back to before the 1960s. There are a lot of people that believe that Mr. Sessions has, at the minimum, racist tendencies, if not being an out-and-out racist himself. Now, there's evidence to the contrary that indicate that he may not be an out-and-out racist, and there are African Americans, well, at least one that I'm aware of, that has stepped forward to proclaim that Mr. Sessions is not a racist. This person happens to be an attorney who still practices in the state of Alabama, and it is reported that Mr. Sessions asked him to join a Republican-based organization. Obviously, this black person was a Republican, and the person declined to join the organization, but has supposedly maintained a relationship with Jeff Sessions throughout the years. Now, there is a lot of evidence that Mr. Sessions, again, does have racist tendencies. Now, I don't have to tell you about the reputation of Alabama as far as racism is concerned. And Mr. Sessions, being an attorney out of Alabama, working at that time within the Justice Department, I believe, had an opportunity to show which side of the fence that he wanted to come down on. Now, Mr. Sessions prosecuted 3 people, black people, for mail fraud, voting more than once, and changing absentee ballots. The charges were without merit, but because black people were gaining in political power back then, Mr. Sessions made a decision, and I don't know what influenced him, but he made a decision that he was going to make an example of these 3 civil rights workers. Now, I'm going to read to you, I guess, an excerpt from the only person that's still alive from that trial. It was an Evelyn Turner, who is now 80, and she's indicated she can still recall sitting in a packed courthouse in Selma, Alabama, facing a jury that could send her, her husband, and an aide to Martin Luther King to prison for 150 years. As previously stated, the charges were mail fraud, voting more than once, and changing absentee ballots. She recalled that the trial was nerve-wracking and she didn't know whether she was going to go to jail for 150 years, leaving her family all alone since she and her husband were both being charged. Jeff Sessions was the U.S. attorney bringing the election fraud case. He lost the case, thank God. It took the jury, which was comprised, I believe, of 7 blacks and 5 whites. It took them about 3 hours, if I'm not mistaken, to find the defendants not guilty of all charges. The case and allegations of racial insensitivity figured prominently at a Senate hearing a year later, at which Sessions' nomination to be a federal judge was defeated by a vote of the Judiciary Committee. Sessions had been, his name had been put in nomination by Ronald Reagan. And now, 30 years later, he's going to come in front of that same committee, of which he is now a senior member, as the nominee to become the next Attorney General. Sessions has a long record, and at best, it's mixed. But mixed, in my opinion, is not good enough. Jeff Sessions has hired African Americans for senior positions, and those people that he's hired, they do speak highly of him. But at the same time, he's been sharply criticized by civil rights groups for his position on voting rights, same-sex marriage, and gender equality. In 1986, he testified before Congress, and he called the Voting Rights Act intrusive but necessary. In 2006, as a senator, he, along with the other 99 senators, voted to renew the Voting Rights Act for 25 years. 7 years later, though, he said it was good news for the South when the Supreme Court struck down Section 5 of the Voting Rights Act, which made it more difficult for the federal government to protect people from racial discrimination in voting. Now, in 2006, at a congressional hearing, Sessions said that an entire group of people wouldn't thrive in America. Fundamentally, almost nobody coming from the Dominican Republic to the United States is coming because they have a skill that would benefit us and would indicate their likely success in our society, he said. Now, just that alone, if taken out of context, is damning. But his official defender, and I guess Trump has assigned this woman to appear on the Sunday morning talk shows, etc. Her name is Sarah Isgar Flores, and I've seen her at least 3 times now on the various cable Sunday morning shows, and I saw her also this evening defending Mr. Sessions and claiming that there are a large number of African Americans that are coming to Mr. Sessions' defense. I took a look, and I only found the one attorney out of Alabama. I haven't found anyone else, but various civil rights groups have come out against him. Now, just so that you know, in 2009, he voted against a hate crimes bill named after Matthew Shepard, the gay Wyoming student murdered in 1998, that extended federal hate crime prosecutions to people victimized because of their sexual orientation or gender identity. So he voted against that. He also has a poor record as far as dealing with the Department of Justice Civil Rights Division. In 1995, he argued against a decision by the Alabama Circuit Court to order the state to remedy funding inequities between the poorest school districts, which were heavily black, and their wealthiest, which were predominantly white. He did so on the grounds that taxing and spending power lay with the legislature, not the courts. In his defense, his staff members have claimed that he has filed a host of desegregation lawsuits in Alabama, but the reality is Sessions did not initiate the lawsuits. Rather, he just signed off on paperwork from the Justice Department Civil Rights Division supporting continuing federal desegregation lawsuits, which in some cases were decades old. He also signed off on election lawsuits brought by the Justice Department to convert countrywide elections to multiple district elections so that African Americans could be represented on county commissions and school boards. Now, again, in his defense, and this is always brought up, he did reportedly, I'm not saying supposedly, but reportedly work hard on the successful 1983 prosecution of 2 Ku Klux Klan members for killing a black youth. Former FBI Director Louis Feach, in a letter of support to the Senate Judiciary Committee, also noted Sessions' fierce determination to solve 2 civil rights murders, the 1989 killings of a federal judge in Alabama and an official with the National Association for the NAACP, And as a U.S. Senator, Sessions co-sponsored legislation to honor civil rights activist Rosa Parks and the Congressional Gold Medal. He's gone both ways. And in my opinion, we don't need a person that does stuff in order to try to give the appearance of balancing his record. Now, again, Mr. Sessions is a third-generation Alabamian born in Selma. He was raised in a town called Hobart in Monroe County, and his mother, I guess she didn't want to call him Bo or Beauregard, called him Buddy to distinguish him from his father. I guess that's the reason why. Who ran a county store and then a tractor dealership. Sessions, in my opinion, is the wrong guy for this job. I haven't even mentioned the allegations when he was in the U.S. Attorney's Office of referring to, one, a black attorney as boy on several occasions, which the attorney testified to, and 2, referring to a white lawyer who took a lot of the civil rights cases as a traitor to his race. Mr. Sessions vehemently denies both of those allegations, and he further goes on, or it's reported, that he believed that the NAACP, National Urban League, and other various civil rights organizations were communist inspired. He tried to cover his tracks by saying he doesn't believe he said that they were communist inspired, but he did go on record by saying he believed that they were a threat to national security. How the hell is the NAACP a threat to national security? Now, referring back to that prosecution of the 3 civil rights workers, Mr. Sessions turned around and prosecuted those 3 people, but at the same time, it's reported that in various other districts that were primarily white, there was massive voter fraud occurring. And he had been informed of it, but chose to ignore it in lieu of going after the 3 black defendants that he did. In my mind, right then and there, that told me that he was more interested in maintaining the power structure that was currently in the state of Alabama than actual justice and supporting the laws that were in place. Now, let me close with this. it's been reported and confirmed, even by Mr. Sessions, that he thought that the KKK was okay until he found out that they smoked marijuana. Now, that supposedly was a joke between he and another attorney by the name of Kowalski. Mr. Kowalski now is, I guess, somewhere around 80 years old and retired. And if that had been the end of it, we would have never known about it. But later, in Mr. Sessions' office, he made the same comment, but this time 2 other lawyers were present, Thomas Figures and Albert Glenn. Figures was the only black prosecutor in the office, and he was the one that Jeff Sessions allegedly referred to as boy. Mr. Figures did testify in front of the Judiciary Committee that he was deeply offended and didn't think the comment was a joke, while the 2 white attorneys also testified that they thought that it was a joke. The other allegations of insensitive remarks were aired at the more than 19-hour hearing that Mr. Sessions underwent for his federal judgeship. And again, one of the statements was that Mr. Sessions called the NAACP, the Urban League, and the American Civil Liberties Union un-American and communist inspired. Again, Mr. Sessions denied making those comments and said that he thought that they were a danger to U.S. security, but that he didn't call them communist inspired. Jeff Sessions lost that particular nomination for a federal judgeship, and I believe that if the right thing is done, he will lose out on the nomination to be Attorney General for the United States of America.